Welcome back to another episode of Meredyth with a Y. I am your host, Meredyth Willits, and I have the amazing Rebecca J. Rowan on the podcast today, and we are going to be talking about her new book, Healing Becky, which I've already lent to my daughter. I've already purchased a copy for a friend, so stay with us. Hello, everyone. This is Meredyth with a Y, and I am your host, Meredyth Willits. Today, we are going to go deep, changing lives, and I am giving you the keys to the castle. Thank you, Rebecca, for being here with us today, with me and everyone that's watching over on Facebook and listening live on the podcast, and even joining us today through TikTok. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I have to say, I love your intro.
Oh, thank you.
Good.
I'll help you find it if you need it, if you're start a podcast, which you absolutely should. You sent me your book, Healing
Yes, I did.
Becky.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that.
You're so
I
welcome.
had no idea what to expect. I knew nothing about you outside of the fact that you were friends with Peaceful Nick the Medium, friends or acquaintance
Lorenza Carr,
of.
too. Yeah.
What was that?
Lorenza Carr.
Oh, Lorinda Carr, that's who it was, right? I forget.
Yeah.
I have a couple mediums on here, so you're in good company.
Yes.
So I started your book and wow.
Yeah.
I described it yesterday. Like I said, I've already given it to my daughter. I just purchased it on Amazon and sent it directly to a friend from a wedding I went to this past weekend. I was trying to describe it to my daughter yesterday. And the way I summed it up, because I mean, we're talking, I have to add in people like Dolores Cannon. I have to add in people like Eckhart Tolle. I have to add in people, right? And I said, your book is probably the top 10 most important books I've ever read in my entire life.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That statement is deeply appreciated.
But it's true though, because if you need to heal a mother wound, at least that's where I was. Okay. So I just want to tell you what it did for me. I see this as book as being integral. I think that's the way you say the word, into healing a mother wound, because the journey that you take us on in your book, Healing Becky. And I love that in the book, you say, if you've made it this far, and the both people that I've given your book to, I said, please God, make it to the end. Like some people can read half a book and I'm like, please God, finish it, because you give the soup, you give the salad, you give the nuts, you give the menu of what's coming, and it all ties into a bow in the dessert at the end. And I don't even know how to, like, wow. So thank you. First, I just want to start there. We haven't even started the podcast, but I just want to say thank you, because you healed in me something that I didn't think was healable.
Thank you. Thank you. And what a blessing it is to hear that, because when I wrote the book, I said, if one person takes this story of my life and the journey that I've walked, and they are able to find their own healing, then being this naked is so worth it.
Yeah. And there is a warning on your book that says, I mean, you have a book with a whole S trigger warning that's like, you need to know, buckle up, because it's coming. Again, you sent me the book. I had no idea who you were. I had no idea you were a psychic medium. Zero clue. I just thought you were some like random person on watching a podcast. I didn't follow you. I just started reading your book like, okay, here's another person sending me a book, which thank you so much for signing it. Thank you. I appreciate that more than you know. I didn't know the ride I was signing myself up for. So when did you decide I'm writing a book? Like, and that you were going to go there. You were going to go there.
I was going to go there. So I've been a writer for a few years. I did some ghostwriting, and as an avid reader, I've always written poetry. I've kept a journal, which was so good for my mental health. And, bless the therapist that initially told me, you really should keep a journal. It's,
Yeah.
it's good to get all of your thoughts out and down onto paper. But as far as writing Healing Becky, that was after my mother died. And it's in the book where I was, meditating on my deck, and I found a piece of music by like an unknown artist. And I don't even think he understands what he created in this one song. It's almost like when we go looking for like the megahertz to listen to when we're meditating. And I put this song on repeat, and I had this massive vision, where spirit literally pulled me straight out of my body. And it is in the book. And I had scribbled on, before having this vision, I had scribbled on a napkin, not even a piece of paper, how long has she been breathing like this? Because I was reflecting on the morning that she had died. And I started writing right after that. And, people are like, oh, how long did it take you to write the book? Well, it took me 3 years. And it
Wow.
took me 3 years, not because, I could knock out a fantasy book in like an hour, outline it and, just start typing away. But as much as I had believed that I had healed, I didn't realize until I started to really write the book that there was so much left in that metaphorical basement, and that it was completely necessary for me to take breaks.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was a minute. I'd get up, I'd go outside, I'd smoke a cigarette, I'd have a cup of coffee, and then I'd be like, all right, I'm okay. Let me keep going. There was a point though when I got to some of the hardest parts that I stopped writing for several months.
Well,
Uh,
I will say I told the gal that I sent the book to, I said, take breaks.
yes.
Because I know when she reads it, she's going to need to take breaks. And a lot of people think that they have to get it done or like they
Mhm.
should power through. When I read Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, I could get through,
Book.
right, most important book I've ever read in my life.
Yes.
I could get through like maybe 10 pages on a good day.
Yeah.
Sometimes, two. And because people don't realize you're literally reconfiguring your innards when you're
Yes.
reading these books. You are literally breaking patterns. You're breaking old programming. You're breaking the way you see yourself, the way you see the world, the way you remember it. It's undoing, it's recracking, it's reconfiguring. I mean, you are a watch that's being completely redone. And your book is exactly that. And you do have to take breaks.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I tell people I said, listen, if you're going to read the book, be very kind to yourself.
yeah.
If you need to put it down, you need to walk away. Do that. Don't try to push through. Digest it. Sit with it. Think on it. But don't just try to rush through it. So,
And I have to tell you, I wouldn't say I'm an avid reader, but in my life, I've read quality pieces. I'm a college graduate, like I've done all the things. I have to say, your book is so well written from I don't know if I want to call
literary
you an
point of view.
amateur, but like a first timer, I would say. Um, you write as if you have been writing professionally your entire adult life. Your writing is meticulous. Your writing is thoughtful. It's layered. You can chew it. You can taste it. You can smell it. Your writing is profound. It's important. You are 100% the real deal. Um,
Thank you.
and I kept, it was funny because it's like, you know, being 200 plus episodes into this crazy ass podcast, I get a lot of stuff
Yeah.
sent to me. And I'm like, here we go. Let's see what this Rebecca has to offer. Right. And then I start reading it. I'm like, this bitch has got chops. Like she knows what's up. Like this is good shit. Um, and the book takes you for a ride. in the beginning were with your mother.
Yes.
And I thought that this, man, it's making my stomach sick. So I'm still triggered a bit. Like I can feel it coming up in my stomach as I'm talking to you. Cause like not many people get to talk to the author. All right. So
Yeah.
let's just call a blessing a blessing. Not many people get to sit where I'm sitting right now and get to talk to the author of the book that they just read, which changed their life forever and healed a part of them they didn't know was possible to be healed. But the teacher appears, right? The teacher has appeared in my life. It's you. And you've healed something in me that I didn't think was going to be healed. I didn't think was going to be healed in me before my mom died. And you have healed that. So that's huge. But in the beginning of your book,
Can me cry.
it's the truth, God's truth. In the beginning of the book, I thought we were going to go on a ride together of hating moms.
Yeah.
I'm like, here we go.
Oh, so
Soul sister.
you must have loved the Ada potato, the big fat tomato.
I was like, here we go. Like, she is just, you palatably allow me to be so mad at your mom and just find all of the negative in her. And by the end of the book, I'm grasping to keep her alive.
Yeah. 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 I didn't find as much peace with my dad. And so even though my father's death was very impactful, losing my mother, I went on this whole journey with her where I was so bitter, so angry. I just didn't care. I was cruel to her. And she lived with me, and I was not nice to her. I tolerated her. And, something woke up inside me and realized that, I can't let her go without fixing this. And the funny thing is, it was a very selfish thing. I'm like, I need to fix this because,
Yeah.
I'm on this healing journey. I want to grow. Look at what I do for a living. How can I call myself a healer if I remain this broken? And in the journey that I went through with my mother, by the time she was very close to passing, I did not want to lose her. I didn't want to let her go. I had just found her.
Yeah.
We had just found each other, and her loss just about destroyed me. And, and in saying that, it was because there were still things that I needed to heal, even beyond her death and beyond everything that we had worked on together. And, and like I said, my mother went from this person that I just mostly tolerated to this beautiful soul, this human being, who I had deep compassion, understanding, kindness, and love for. And what a journey that was. And honestly, from the moment that I made that decision to her death, it literally was 8 months. 8 months.
Yeah.
And to heal a lifetime of that mother wound trauma in such a short period of time. I knew that it was creator. I knew that this was absolutely meant to be, and what I'm very, very grateful for is, she's still around. She's always around. And,
Of course, right.
and I know that she was with me through the entire process of writing the book, and I would have dreams of her where she would say, don't give up. This is important. This is important. This isn't just about you.
Yeah.
So
Did you think that you were going to make it through those chapters, the difficult chapters, the graphic chapters, the trigger warning on the back of the damn book chapters? Like, I'm assuming those were the hardest chapters to write, but you tell me.
they were very difficult to write, but I have been thoroughly blessed in having a spiritual psychotherapist
Yeah.
who I could call on anytime I needed her. And so, literally, she would sometimes get calls from me where I'd say, "I'm writing about this, and I don't think I can do it," and
Yeah.
and she would ground me, and and say, "Let's talk through this. Let's meditate through this. Let's ground." There was a reason why you started this. You made a choice to be this transparent, you know, but also there was kindness there because, Rebecca, if you really can't do this, it's okay. Walk away.
Yeah.
Walk away until you feel stronger. And that's why it did take 3 years. But you know, it pulled up every emotion. It pulled up every memory. So writing the book, I really was very much reliving those experiences.
That's what I was going to ask you. So, for those of you that obviously have probably not read the book, I hope you have. I hope everyone reads this book. This book is filled with harrowing trauma that you've endured since a child. And it was interesting as the reader reading through, and the way you've laid out the abuse is so well done. It's odd just having this conversation, but it is what it is. And as I'm going through each abuser, I'm like, huh, no dad. Interesting. And then all of a sudden, page turn. And I'm like, there it is. Now, pulling back with doing what you do. And I'm assuming you're just reading and talking and knowing and being in your energy while reading the book, and also what you write in the book. Is there a part of you that can look at any of this or all of this, or is it outside of the realm of your belief system that you and I could only have this conversation with you, and you're going to know what I mean in a second,
Yes.
that you sit there and look at that and go, I signed up for this. I don't know why I signed up for all this shit, but I signed up for it. And you know what I'm saying when
I
I say I can only have this
absolutely,
conversation with you,
I,
because anyone else would think that I'd lost my mind and need to be committed. So bear with me on that. So yeah.
so I've been privileged to have some pretty in-depth conversations with my higher self in meditation, in astral projection, and through hypnosis with some really great QHHT practitioners. And yes, I did sign up for
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
But in one of the conversations I had with my higher self, I
I
saw,
can't even imagine.
I saw, I saw me saying, I'll do this. I'll do this, but you have to promise me that the last portions of my life will be filled with great joy. And I knew, and it's so funny because, you know, yes, I signed up to experience all of this trauma, you know, and, but for a reason, and it was to break chains, not just the ones in my own ancestry, but to help others break these chains also. You know, we like to talk love and light. There's a darkness out there too, you know, and it has to be acknowledged. Now, so here I am, and I signed up for all of this trauma. There were others in my life who signed up to be the bad guy.
And I talk about that all the time with clients and self and on social media. Like, and it's so hard unless you have touched the sinew of that side of the realm, right? And that side of spirituality, that they're signing up to be the bad guy. I remember I was doing a reading for a client, and it was like the bad stepdad, you know, like not horrifically bad, but bad enough. And I just kept seeing him flying away with these gold wings. And in that moment, I went, he signed up to be the bad guy in her life and earned gold wings. Like that's the way that they had shown it in my brain.
Yeah, yeah.
And from that moment on, I understood what it meant to sign up to be the bad guy and how difficult that is. Everyone wants to be liked. No one wants to come to the three-dimensional plane and be the bad
No,
guy. It's not
be the
fun.
bad guy. No.
And so to sign up to be the bad guy, they just said is an honor, you know, like that's what they just said. And I've had conversations on Meredyth with a Y, with, I just had on Jane Fisher, and her daughter was born with a pretty profound,
I watched that podcast.
Yeah, and like she was open and we were talking about um that her daughter had signed up to have this physical limitations and these mental limitations, and that there's a row, there's a line out the door of souls signing up to be, I hope, mentally retarded or physically handicapped are the proper ways to say
That
it.
one.
I don't know the right way.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying. And she's like, I'm so glad you get that. Because I believe the same thing, that like she's brought here as an angel on earth. And I look at the things that I've been through and go, okay, if I signed up for this, which is what I believe, what can I take from this?
Yes.
Right? Because then there's a takeaway. If it's just for the sake of the word just, there's no blessing, there's no lesson, there's no end game, there's no win. It's all a lose. And so if you can crack open your brain and go, okay, I signed up for this for a reason. What's the reason? Let's look deeper. Then shit's got layers. If it's just for the word just, then it's just like, it was for the sake of abuse. It was for the sake of whatever the hell.
I mean,
Right?
listen, this is Earth School,
This is
right?
our school.
And so I almost feel like in this life, I signed up for the AP classes. Like I really, really need to get ahead quickly. So let's do all this in one lifetime. Now, now we have this whole plan, when we are creating these contracts on the other side, but we come here with full free will. I could have screwed this up.
Yeah.
I could have chosen to become bitter. I could have
Yes.
chosen to check out early, which I almost did
Yeah.
several times. I could have chosen to do all of that, but somewhere, even when I wasn't this evolved, this enlightened, somewhere I always knew that there was a purpose and that I had to keep going,
Yeah.
because, and it's funny. And some people will read the book and they'll go, is that true? That seems like a lot to happen to one person. And I actually had somebody say that to me, like it was statistically impossible for one person to experience this much trauma. And I said, listen, you can't make this up. If I could, I would write Spanish novellas. Okay. I mean, this actually happened, and I'm here. When my kids, when one of my children read the book, and they knew a lot of my stories, but I warned them. I said, there are things in there that are going to be very difficult for you to read, and of course I got the crying phone call. Crying phone call.
Mom, how
And
did you? Yeah, like I'm
yeah,
so
and
sad. Yeah. Yeah.
I said, please remind yourself, I'm okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'm okay. I'm on the other side of that now. And one of my biggest motivations in writing the book was, the silence always was killing me. That there were, I grew up in a home where what happens in this house stays in this house, and so everything was a secret. And when I was going through all of these things, I felt so alone. I felt so isolated. And I felt that even if I did open my mouth, who was going to believe me? And so I felt that no one would ever understand. And so in writing the book, one of my goals was whoever read it would see themselves in my story and go, oh my God, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person who's ever
Yeah.
gone through something like that, because that was one of the worst parts of it. Is it was feeling so isolated and so alone, and you telling me that, that my story helped you heal.
Oh
I'm
my God.
so humbling. It is so humbling for me, and in the purpose that I came here for, it's so amazing to see that this is where it's supposed to be. This is what was supposed to happen. And I live in gratitude with that.
Yeah.
Because listen, we could have been bitter, right? We could have held on to our bitterness, we could have held on to our anger. And who is that helping? You
And I
know,
think a lot of people do, though. You know what I mean? A lot of people think that the world's out to get them, or that God's punishing them, or It must have been from something I did, and now I'm being, retribution or punished or whatever the hell it is. And I think that was for me the biggest undoing religion that helped me, is that I'm not being punished. It's
Yes.
more of a tap, 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 like, maybe don't drink a gallon of tequila because I'm going to give you a headache. Like I always call it like that course correction. Like,
Yeah.
what you do have free will. You can drink a bottle of tequila. You can, walk to Walmart, or you can take a car and not drink a bottle of tequila. Like there's lots of great options. So, but the end game is to get to Target. The end game is to get to where you're at right now. Yes, you could have done 20,000 things. But I think that the hangover, the sore feet walking to Target, or whatever the thing is, that's tap, 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 get back on board, get back
Yeah.
in line, right? Those are the course corrections that allow you to have free will, but still try and keep you on your path. And people
Yes.
don't get that. I think they miss that a lot
People,
of
yeah,
times.
people don't get that. If listen, one day you and I will have to have a whole conversation about deconstructing religion, because that's a whole other podcast, because
Yeah.
I actually was studying to be a minister. So let's not even go there. Okay.
Right.
Um,
Well,
but
I think when you're searching, when you're looking for that purpose, you have all these feelings, you have all these ideas, you have all this living inside of you, all of this energy, which I know both you and I do, because I actually looked into becoming a pastor of some sort or a minister of some sort. I'm raised Episcopal. I've done a stint as fundamental Baptist. I've done a stint as Episcopal. I've done a stint, right? I've done all those things because I think that when there's the people like you and I who are searching, like, there must be more, there must be something that makes sense. How do I help people? Like, there's got to be, this has to make sense. I'm a logical person. And when you're in that, you're looking for it, and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you go, it's Wizard of Oz, it's Dorothy, it's been in me all the time, right? It's
well,
you always had the power yourself. Just
yes,
tap
yes.
your
Oh, I
damn
love
heels.
that.
Yeah,
I
like
love
it's
that.
it's always been you. It's my first podcast of this podcast, Meredith with a Y, is happiness can't be found outside of yourself. And it's so true. It's like you are the answer. And religion wants you to take all your power and hand that and 10% over to them. Go,
10%.
you know, and it's so true, because then all of a sudden it's just like, these things happen to me. I can't help it. And you're the victim, and then they can save you. They can
Yes.
save you from being victimized. And I don't remember
But you
where I
read
read
that.
it.
You read that in my book. It's like the corner church came calling, and I was so, I had zero self-esteem. I was young. I hadn't really grown. And they offered me salvation.
Yep.
They offered me the fix, and it fixed nothing. It made it worse, because now not only did I carry shame for everything that had happened to me, now I was carrying guilt,
Yeah.
for, the fact that I couldn't heal. The way that they told me I was supposed to heal, it was supposed to be instantaneous, and there was supposed to be evidence of it. And so because of that, I lived most of my life, my adult life, with a mask on. Here I am, and I'm the happy woman, and I'm all good, and everything is fine. And meanwhile, in behind closed doors, I'm trying not to eat the barrel of a gun. I
Yeah.
mean, so it can be a very dangerous thing. And even some people can skew spirituality. And so, I mean, I have to use certain terms, because really it is indescribable what I believe. My
Yeah.
belief system is very indescribable, listen, I can talk religion. I can quote the Bible. I love when, Christians come into my room and they start, spouting scripture. I mean, I spout it right back at them, and I'm like, you don't even know your own Bible, so let's not even go there,
Right.
but what really helped me though was, and I did write about it, that I went on this journey. I actually started to go to different houses of worship, you know,
Yeah.
and I realized that not everybody got it right, not everybody got it wrong, and it's all about what is within you,
Yeah.
and finding, that spark of creation, that energetic field, within you, and are there universal laws? Oh yeah, I love the universal laws, and they span all religion, so they did kind of pick some of it, but not all of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was a point in time where I was a complete atheist. I was like, I don't
Yeah.
believe in anything. I'm just, but even that was believing in something, because I was believing in me,
Yeah.
you know and so so during this whole process of healing, and I was still learning, and I'm sure, you reading in the book the moment where I went into my mother's room, and there was my brother, my dead brother,
Yeah.
and the things that he showed me, and my guide showed me in that span of time, in that moment of time, um, completely changed viewed how I viewed, um, how we as humans want people to suffer.
Oh, why do you think God's so damn retributional and all that? And like, oh, this is because you XYZ and you're being punished. That's human stuff. Like that has
And it's
nothing to
very human.
do.
And
And
it's so
like,
funny because when we talk about humanity, we're like, oh, it's so human to love. It is so human to hate. It
yeah,
is so human to want to hurt people, to
yeah,
want to see them suffer, to want to see them burn somewhere for eternity.
yeah,
And that's not what happens. That's not what happens. I mean, I believe and I've been there to the halls of healing. I've been to the halls of healing. I'll never forget, asking for the first time. And it was actually, oh gosh, it was when I was writing some of those really hard chapters. And I felt my mother's presence, and I said, "Can you please? I want to go to the halls of healing. I don't know if I can do this. I need more strength." And I've been there. And let me tell you something, that next day, everything looked different. Everything looked different. Everything that I set my fleshly eyes on looked different to me. It was amazing. It was like almost being like vitamin deficient, and you go get like an infusion, or like a B12 shot, and suddenly you're
right.
feeling great, and it's so funny because I wanted to keep going back. And I just, yeah, it was an amazing thing. Well, that's like when I had my near death experiences, you know, I didn't want
When
to
you're
come.
sick, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
How did you have? Because one of the things that was striking me in the book was your courage to ask your mom those difficult questions, because I tried to put myself in your shoes and ask my mom or dad the questions, right? Like not the same questions obviously, but the the questions of
The
my life,
questions,
right?
yeah, the question.
And like it just kept coming up that they're going to walk away or say that never happened, the boomer gaslighting 101.
Yeah,
um and I was so proud of you for, first of all, opening your mouth, because that's scary to ask those questions. But second of all, that your mom sat there, even though, she tried to wiggle out the worm out of them, like she tried her damnedest, but you stuck with it. Where did you get the courage to ask? And I know you're going to say, I needed to, and I don't care if you needed to. There's a lot of us that need to, but you actually did it. And so if someone's out there listening and they need to heal with a parent wound, especially a daughter mom wound, how do I get the courage to say, Mom,
you hurt
dot,
me.
dot, dot?
You hurt me. Why did you do that? I will tell you, I was brave because of my children. Because as much as I had hoped that I wouldn't have passed forward the generational trauma, I did. Unknowingly, I did. And as I was moving forward in my own healing, I recognized the wounds that I had created in my own children too. And I needed to get to the root of it. We are mama tigers. I don't care who you are. You're a mom. Your kid needs something. You're turning into a bear. And I realized that I had to get to the root of it, because I was never going to mend the relationships between, me and my children, unless I moved backward first, healed the relationship with my mother, got those answers, understood her childhood, because I couldn't even go any further because the grandparents died so young,
Yeah.
due to alcohol addiction, and I recognized that she was holding bits of information that I needed.
Yeah.
I really, really needed it. And you're right. She was just lying through her teeth in the beginning, and it was so frustrating. And here I am, and I literally was trying to hold everything back as I'm talking to her, because I wanted her to feel comfortable enough to answer these questions. But the more she lied, the more she negated my trauma and my pain.
Yeah.
And I so angry, so angry. And I know you read about it because I walked out the door. I'm just like, I can't take this anymore. And I realized that I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop because I loved my children so much, and I wanted to understand how and why. I did need the why. And I know you don't want to hear that, but I did need the why. And it's not that I needed her to fill in gaps, because I have something called hypermnesia. And so basically I can remember being in my crib.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So I have a very, very long standing memory, as long as it goes into long-term memory, it's there. Don't ask me what I ate for breakfast this morning, though. That's not in long-term memory yet. But,
But
but
it
I
sounds
knew,
like you're a woman possessed.
yeah, I was.
There's things that I've done in my life, and I look back on it and I go, I don't even remember making that decision.
Yeah.
I just did it. It
Yeah.
just was the next thing to do. And I
Yeah.
don't even know how to describe some of those things. Like, none of them make sense. None of them were like, they weren't even in the prefrontal cortex. It was almost just like brainstem. It was just like, maybe, like do. And like, I'm listening to you talk, and I'm just like, she was a woman possessed. It was almost like a spirit
It
had
was
taken over.
primal. It was
It
primal.
was so primal. Like,
It was
every
primal.
part of your ego should have been saying, who cares? Screw her,
She's
move
dying. Let her
on,
go, and you'll
let
live
her
your life.
go, like, screw the whole situation. And like, I'm sitting here watching you, listening to you, and I'm like, she was kind of taken over a bit because, like,
Listen, when it's so funny, because I think that, yes, it does take a tremendous amount of courage to stand up and say, no more. This ends with me. Future generations will never experience this,
yeah.
and to make that choice. Yes, it's very, very brave, but not many families. And we're talking about both sides of my family, my mother's side of the family, my father's side of the family. This crap had gone on for generations, to the point where it had gotten completely out of control. And when I say that, and honestly, like I said, I had a choice, right? I made all these contracts. I had a choice. I could have shit the bed. I could have just been like, all right, I'm not doing
Yep.
this. And it would have gone on to the next generation. Okay. And apparently that's what prior generations had done. There were, I'm sure, relatives that were called to break this. Okay. To say,
I
this
don't
is,
know though. Like, I talk about that here. I've talked about it a couple different places. We have language. We have social media that we're sharing all this, where I can look at you and go, wait, she did that and I can learn from it, and hold on a second. Like, I just think there's so much information and so much information sharing and so much language, like gaslighting, love bombing, narcissism, abuse, thinking that, boy pulling your hair is cute. Nope, that's abuse. Like, all these things are so new. A lot of the things that you and I are talking about right now would have only been information for people that maybe had a PhD in psychology, and now all of a sudden people like you and I are sharing this across millions of people, hearing these stories that, the average education in the United States, I think they said, was like seventh or eighth grade.
I find that,
Chilling.
wow. Yeah, chilling.
chilling.
Yeah.
But if you think about that, if someone's dropping out of school and let's just push it to ninth grade, um, they're not going to be privy to this language and this way of thinking and understanding about self. I just feel there was information for our parents, right? You're Gen X, I'm Gen X. There was information for boomers,
Well,
but I just
my father was silent generation.
see, and your dad was silent generation, so it was even like it's just not happening. I was talking to my daughter. I have a 20, it's going to be 27-year-old, and we were talking. I said, I think that Generation X is literally here to change everything, to break like every generational curse, because like
Yeah, we
what
come
the
with a
hell? Like
soft step. Listen, we come with a soft step, but we also are wielding a bat.
yeah.
Okay, because we are the no more generation. No, what was it last year? Did you mean to wake Gen X up? Did you mean to? Because they weren't bothering us, and now woo hoo hoo. Did you mean to wake them up?
Yeah.
I mean, it is as far as our age of instant information. Right? We do live in an age of instant information. And that's why things that happen to us, okay, the Generation X, and even some of the older millennials, because we couldn't just Google, is this normal? This
We
is
weren't
happening.
allowed to talk about it. Like you said at the top of the hour,
Yeah,
you swept everything under the rug. You don't talk about it. You don't share family business. If they find out you shared family, which P.S. The parents were sharing family business to all their friends and families and sisters and brothers. P.S. They were telling our business left and right. We just weren't allowed to talk about it with our
we
friends
weren't
or
allowed.
anyone.
Yeah.
Right,
That,
right,
yeah,
right.
children should be seen and not heard,
Yeah, yeah,
so yeah. Well, you know what? And I didn't write about this in the book, but I was discussing this with one of my sisters, and I said, "Do you remember this teacher?" And she says, "Oh yeah." And I said, she took me into the bathroom one day with a bar of soap and a washcloth, and she taught me how to scrub the crud off of my neck when I was, 7 years old. And that would not happen today. It would be a call to CPS. Okay, Child Protective Services would be involved immediately. So I had a lunch with a friend and their spouse, and the spouse read the book, but you could tell had zero trauma ever in their life because they kept saying, "I don't understand. Like, why didn't you say anything?" and all this other stuff. And it's shocking to me that nobody knew. And I'm like, plenty of people knew. It was a very different time. It was a very different time. Teachers knew,
yeah.
I had social workers in my house, but we were taught to lie, you know.
Everything's
Does your mother,
fine.
yeah, does your mother hit you? No, you know. Does your father hit you? Oh, no, no. Do you have enough to eat? Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. You're warm enough? Sure. Yeah. Because my parents told me that if somebody came to the house and we told on them, we were to tell on them, we would be taken away,
Yep.
locked up, starved, beaten. And I'm like thinking in my head, you do that now.
Yeah.
But nobody did intervene, and so the trauma continued, the abuse continued. But today, it's not that it's not happening, because it is still happening in families. That is still happening. But as long as there is some sort of outside contact, the child is in school or whatever, somebody's going to notice. Somebody's going to notice, and you know and hopefully do something about it. That saying, see something, say something, which is about terrorism. But
Yeah.
see something, say something. If you're wrong, you're wrong.
Right.
Okay. They'll investigate, nothing will happen. But what if you're right? What if your
Yeah.
instinct and your suspicions are right? Please open your mouth,
Yeah. But
because
it's what do they say? Like people will sit in discomfort because the fear of the unknown is scarier than what is. No matter how bad the is,
yeah.
the unknown is way scarier, which is why people stay in abusive relationships or bad
Mhm.
jobs or whatever the thing is. I at least know how to do this.
Yes.
I've managed to do this. That over there, that future thing, that scary thing, I don't know how to do that. And especially for you, like I'm going to be taken away from my siblings. I'm going to be taken away from my school. Like as a child, like we don't know what the other thing looks like, which is a lot of times why I think kids don't tell unless they're I think a lot of times what happens, and we've seen it out on the news, is the kids are finally starving so bad that they run and get help for a sibling locked in the basement, or that they're like, that's, I have a friend who he and his siblings were starving and they'd go to the neighbor's house and be fed. I think that a lot of times where the kids aren't telling, but they're surviving, and inside of surviving and asking for help, that is the telling situation. I think a lot of neighbors are just like, I don't want to call CPS. Let's not rock the boat. I'll just keep feeding these kids. It's like, a feral cat. Just keep feeding it instead of whatever. But when you were a kid and you're going through all of this, I don't remember, because, like, again, I didn't really put together a psychic medium while I'm reading this. Again, I went into this book raw as anybody.
Yeah.
um Do you think you became an empath because you were reading the room and surviving and leaving your body and astral traveling, or do you think you were born? I believe for myself, I became a psychic medium channel. I think that, like, I think we always are, but then I
That
think we
is a
become more sensitive, and
yeah.
then we can make it to a career or not. What do you look at as your life, as your
So that's a great question. I love that you asked that question. That is a great question. It's hard to tell because, the abuse was from birth, right? The abuse was from birth. And so was this an evolutionary necessity? Because yes, being an empath, we learn how to read the room. We are two steps ahead of everybody else,
yeah,
but I could see the dead I started seeing the dead when I was about 3.
okay,
And at first, I thought that, these were just my friends. These are my friends, until I actually said to my father, he's, who are you talking to? And I said, I'm talking to Frank. And I said, and Daddy, Frank said, do you remember when you lived over the bakery and you used to go steal bread? And my father is white as a sheet, because I was talking to his dead father.
yeah,
you know and so for me, I think that it is a little bit of both. Like, we all come from there, so we all have the ability to
yeah,
communicate with there, whatever you want to call it, the other side, beyond the veil, heaven, whatever you want to call it. We all have that ability. Like, it's like, listen, it's like great baseball players, right? Professional baseball players. Well, you don't just wake up one day and go, I'm going to be a professional baseball player. No, you have to practice, and you've probably been in little league since you're 4.
yeah,
So though we all have this ability, not all of us develop it, not all of us choose to do this.
yeah,
This is also a choice. But I will say, looking at my siblings and how they are all very much gifted. I believe that, for some of them, it really was the trauma, and for others, I think that they were going to be this anyway.
yeah,
So I don't have a very clear answer. What I can tell you is that, due to religion, I literally pushed this aside for many, many years. And then I made a choice, and the choice was, I feel very called to do this, and so I'm going to do this. But I still was so haphazard when I made that decision, and I've been very fortunate to have had some amazing mentors. So,
yeah. So let me ask you this. So we've got the book.
mhm.
It's only been out for what, 2 months?
Like a month.
Like a month. I know. I opened up the front of it because I was just like, okay. And it was June 2025, right?
Yeah, June. I
And I
think
was like,
it came out June 13th. Yeah, June
yeah.
13th.
I'm like, okay, well, clearly I have the first copy. I can tell myself whatever I want. Um, so we've got the book, but you also do readings. You also
Yes.
do appointments
Mhm.
um, for your psychic medium healing reading. Can we talk
And I
about,
teach. And I teach.
and you
And
teach?
Yeah, I haven't. I've actually been working on new lessons. So what I normally do is I'll do it on Google Meet. I'll have people sign up for the class, and I teach classes. And I'm usually teaching for like a good hour. We take a little break, and then we come back and we do meditations to. So it's almost like doing a practical practice of what I've been teaching. I do love to teach. I have limited the amount of readings that I've been doing, only because I was, very busy with the book. And so, but I do go live on TikTok a lot to just do free readings, however spirit is leading. And it's funny because I went live last night. I live streamed last night because I wanted to promote this, and spirit just came in with a bang. And it was just like, I was just trance channeling like this. And it was like, and it's so funny because when I'm channeling, I really don't remember
I
most of
mean,
what
neither.
I've
People are like,
said.
remember when you
No,
told me XYZ? And I'm like,
I'm like,
yeah, I was kind of
oh,
checked out
did
for
I?
that.
Yeah, I was kind of checked out for that because we place ego to the side,
Yeah.
And so, so last night was really really fun to watch after the fact and go, ooh, like that was amazing. I've actually started a second book.
I was going to ask about that. I'm like, okay, where's the rest of the meat and potatoes? I had
So
my soup. Now I need I need some more.
So yeah, and actually, this book is, and it's funny because I'm still very much in the process of healing with my children,
Yeah.
you know, and I have to say, my goodness, my kids, bless my children, because they have afforded me so much grace. They could have done what I did in the beginning, which was, I don't care how young you were, I don't care how messed up you were, you hurt me. you know Instead it was, I know how young you were, I know how messed up you were, but you did hurt me. Can we
Hmm.
talk about that? And so it's funny because I didn't know who I was writing the next book for, but I think who I'm writing it for are the parents who are estranged from their children
Yeah.
and having to look at their own selves and how, you know, in their own healing, they can create that ripple effect that will eventually span out towards their children. But see, it's hard when we hurt people, and it doesn't matter what your relationship is, mom, dad, children, brother, sister, friend. When we hurt people and we own it, I'm so sorry, I did this, you still have to be prepared that they may never want to speak to you again.
Yeah.
And that's hard, to respect that boundary, you
Yeah.
know, and to step back. And then you really are having to own your behavior, because, it's almost like committing a crime. And no matter how sorry you were, you still ended up in jail, you
Yeah.
know, and that's a rough thing.
I
But
remember I had this conversation with my dad one time because he's amazing, but he's also like, everything's good, everything's fine, everything's good, I did my best, like I'm doing my best. He's that guy, right?
yeah,
And one time in Ohio, so this would have been 8, 9, 10, like let's say 11 years ago, we were in my kitchen and he was over for like an hour. And in that hour, maybe 15 minutes of it, he said a few sentences of pure honesty, like your mom in the book conversation honesty.
oh my God, yeah,
And I remember sitting there going, "You knew? You wait, you knew? It you know? Wait." Like cuz it was like, "Holy shit." So I would have been like in my 40s. And I remember sitting there like going, "Holy shit, this is the most honest conversation I've ever had with my dad in all my life, where we literally connected and he knew the whole time of what was going on, and I didn't blame him. It wasn't a display. It was just, I see you, I hear you, I saw you, I understood you. I don't know if we've ever talked about it again. See, it's the stomach thing's coming up again.
yeah,
Darn you, Rebecca. Damn you. Um but I don't think people realize, or parents, boomers, Gen X, whatever. I don't think that people realize it's okay to have been wrong. It's
yes,
okay to have screwed up. You're not going to die. Like I told my son, I'm like, let's go to therapy and you can tell your therapist what an absolute wild piece of shit mom I am. Sign me up. Like, let's do it. He goes, Mom, I don't think you could handle it. I'm like, trust me, I can. Because I know, and this is where they get you with church.
Mhm.
Okay. This is where they get you. They make you believe that if you're bad, you're bad.
Yes.
And I learned while going to ayahuasca, and I don't think I ever need to go back, by the way, is that I'm as much bad as I am good.
Yeah.
It's just in the minute by minute choices that I make, what side of that I land in this moment. But I have the capacity for pure evil. I do. I have the capacity. We all have the capacity for being horrific. And if we would just own that, if we would all just own and go, I was a wild piece of shit when I was 23. I was a horrible mom. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I was barely surviving. I had no ability to be a parent because I was raised that, hitting is the answer to all things, right? And people run around thinking that if they just fake it long enough, everyone around them will believe they're perfect too. And that's just not the case. So how about we all just get honest and be real and see that shadow or that darkness or that evil or that bad or whatever the hell you want to call it. Own that shit
Yes.
and let's move on from a place of reality. Because if we can own, I've been a shitty mom in my lifetime, that's the beginning of healing forever. You are, as long as you can own it and have grace for yourself and be real and say, yeah, I screwed that up. Now we're having a conversation. And here's the intimacy with you and your parents and you and your kids and you and everyone else around you.
And healing is messy. It's messy. It hurts. It's so painful. Number one, why can't we admit what we did wrong? Why can't certain people admit that they've done it? Because they're ashamed,
Yeah.
because they're ashamed. And so they go on the defensive and they'll stick to their guns. And meanwhile, the person who's trying to open that communication with them, whatever that relationship is like, can you just be real with me for
Just tell
five
the truth.
minutes?
Right.
And another side to that is, I don't know if you know who Dr. Gabor Mate is.
Mm,
Look him up. Amazing. He talks about how, our siblings, you and your siblings didn't get the same parents. You may have
right.
been raised in the same house, but you did not have the same set of parents. And it really depends on where your parents were in their life, in their growth, in their journey, how old they were, all of these things, and I mean, with my own children, I had my first at 17,
Right. Yeah.
my last at 28. So
Yeah.
the parent that my 17 that got me at
Oh, she
17,
had left the building by the time you were 28. Like she was.
I mean, and so, you know, how I parented at 17 years old versus how I parented at 28 when I was older, wiser, a little bit more settled in myself. Where was I in my growth? I mean, so different. He got such a different mom,
Yeah.
and one of my kids, that, here we were, and we were really starting to have open, honest communication about his childhood and, how I affected him, because I was still, doing the whole patriarchal thing. You're a boy. And, um,
Stiff upper lip.
yeah. And he was so angry at me. I mean, his anger was palpable and
Yeah.
he wanted me to hurt. And I took it. I took it because I could see, I had to own it. I had to own it all. But it went on a little too long. And I finally said to him, sweetheart, the woman you want to punish, she doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
This is the mother standing in front of you right now. The mother owning what that other mom did,
Yeah.
you know. And so, can we move past this? Can we move forward? And that was miraculous in and of itself, for us
Yeah.
to be able to have that kind of open communication. I talk to my children daily. I FaceTime with them, the ones that don't live with me anymore, and we have this great relationship, but it wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was so ashamed. I was so ashamed, and I beat my chest. I was just a kid. I was in a terrible situation. I was traumatized. I was this, and all I was doing was negating their own experiences. And
Yeah.
I had to learn to stop be quiet. Let them speak. Let them have their voice. Because, you talk about how, like, you can't shut us up now. Gen X, you can't shut us up now. But when we were children, we were voiceless.
Yeah.
We
Nothing good ever came from speaking up is what I would say all the time. Like, it's not going to go well. Just
Yeah.
don't even try it. It's just going to go
Yeah.
poorly.
Mind your business. Don't stir the pot. Let's not even go there. But when I found my voice, yeah, I haven't shut up since.
Right? Well, yeah, I think the shame will get you. And I think that religion teaches us to be shamed and feel shame. And it's a waste of time, and it's a waste of relationship. And my thing is I don't think that people realize is that when you're gaslit, when your experience and your reality is taken away from you. Like, I would say, "Mom, XYZ," and she'd go, "I just shook the silverware drawer. I never got the pancake turner out. I just shook the drawer." And it's
Oh,
like, I don't think that they realize how much anger that brings when you're telling me your reality is not what real. Like, you don't remember that way. And the thing is here it is again, right here, high heart. Now here comes the high heart energy. um when you negate someone else's experience with you, you're actually gaslighting yourself and negating your own experience. You're negating your own healing, wherein if you just met them at the reality of, yes, I hit you, yes, I fed you mac and cheese for 7 days in a row because I was playing Candy Crush, whatever it is. Not that I
yeah.
did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, if you meet them there in reality, both of you heal. It's when you keep missing each other in shame, everyone's healing is stifled. And so when you ignore your kid or say suck it up or I did the best I could, you're actually taking away your own healing from living in reality and then being able to move on from it, because deep down secretly you know what you did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, gallows humor, right? My family, we still employ that so badly. They made a joke, that I had pulled my son's hair when he was 3, you know, and I hurt him because I literally pulled like a portion of his scalp, like,
Mm,
you know, and because of that, he can do this and he's got no lines on his head. They joke that I gave him like an instant facelift,
right.
and they joke, they laugh. That's not funny.
Yeah.
That's not funny. I was so emotionally dysregulated.
Yeah.
I had my first at 17. By the time I was 22, I had 4 children by
That's
the time I
nuts.
was 22.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had no clue. I, I was emotionally dysregulated. How was I even parenting these kids? And yet they will come to my defense and say, yes, you did certain things. Yes, you did certain things. But for the most part, we know that you were doing the best that you could with what you had at the time. Thank you for that. It still doesn't make it okay. It still doesn't make it okay. And I've had to push some of my kids who keep saying, well, Mom, we know you were doing your best. And I said, stop, stop, stop. You're pushing yourself out of this picture.
Yeah.
You're making it all about me and not wanting me to, because I have regret, because I carry shame. You're just like, it's okay, Mom, it's okay. It's not okay. Speak your pain. Even if you think you're going to hurt me, speak your pain. I need to know. You need to speak. You need to have that voice. You have a right to get up at this podium and say what was done to you. It
Yeah.
is, healing is so intricate, because it's not one person healing. It's many people, like it was me
All at once.
and
Yep.
my mom. My mom went to her death. And I worked in hospice for a while, and I've been at the bedside of many people who have passed. My mother had the most peaceful death I have ever witnessed, and it's because she went with no regrets.
I loved that whole everything. I was there with you. You and I were having cigarettes on the back porch. I was on the back deck without any clothes on.
Oh,
with you.
I
I'm,
I can't even. That to this day, I'm like, what was she thinking?
I love it.
Like,
I
I'm
love
gonna
it.
take my clothes off, but I should grab her Journey jean jacket.
But I need a
You know,
jean jacket. Yeah, I need a jean
yeah,
jacket just
I
in
need
case I get
I need a
chilly.
jean jacket,
Yeah,
and to find her out there buck naked,
heaven.
talking to heaven,
It was literally everything about your mom's passing. I'm like, I want that. I want all. I don't want to go from those things, but I want my family there and everyone waking up and everyone coming in and I want all of everything that was there and peace with my kids. And you know, one thing that's striking me as we wrap up is to be so loved by your children that they will go through the pain and the suffering and the courage and the difficulty to heal the relationship between you and your mom.
Oh yeah.
That's love right there for you to give a shit. Because there's so many other kids that are just wash their hands of their parents and their parents' relationship, and you got all of it, and you just put on those boxing gloves and you said, we're doing this, mom, we're gonna do this, we're gonna heal this. And then what a freaking blessing to have a daughter like you.
My mom was Irish, and we called her the tough Irish broad, you know. And so I knew going toe to toe with her, she was going to come right back at me, you know. So stubborn, so stubborn. And my mother deserves respect for the fact that she pulled her walls down for me.
Yep.
She exposed all of her pain because she knew she was going. And what did she have to lose at this point? When I walked into that bedroom that day and I tried to take a different tact with her, and I was almost walking straight out the door, and she called me back. What do you want to know? I said, everything.
That's the fight. That's
You
right
know,
there where she fought for you, because you
yeah,
fought for her
she
though.
did. And so here, you want to talk motherhood, right? I used to say Ada's the worst mother. She taught me how to be a good mom, and the only thing I had to do was her complete opposite. Like I would say that. But what she did for me in the end didn't take away everything she did. But what she did for me in the end swept away so much and helped me to then turn around toward my own children and push that forward. So go Ada.
Go
Go
Ada.
Ada.
I hate to say it like this because it's so selfish, but I want you to know that nothing from where I sit, for here's your one person, nothing that you have endured, nothing that your mom endured, no fight, no boxing glove, no sitting there, no cigarette, no conversation, nothing has been done in vain, because you, like I said from the beginning, you healed a part of me I didn't know could be healed or would be healed in my lifetime, because the block was so big and so angry and so cold, and you melted it. And that's what I told my daughter yesterday when I handed her your book. I said, the first three-fourths of this book is is going to do something to you, and then the last fourth, it's gonna tear off all your clothes, it's gonna rip off all the armor, and it's just gonna reveal a part of you that you didn't even know was inside of you. And this book is incredibly important if you would like to leave this earth not hating your parents.
Yeah. 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 I have to tell you, I can tell you now. I never followed you on TikTok, but you would come up on my For You page all the time.
Really?
And yes, and I said, there's a reason why this woman keeps popping up on my For You page. And I, went to go look at more of your stuff, and I ended up following you. And the very next day, I reached out because you had popped into Lorenda's live that I was doing with her. And that's when I sent you the message, because Spirit told me, get her email address, contact her, send her the book.
Yeah.
And I went, okay. And so,
The teacher
so
appears.
really, really necessary, apparently, from everything that you've said. And Meredyth, thank you. Because honestly, it was one of the reasons why, because I am not a gatekeeper of information, and this needed to be told because other people are in the midst of this, and they need to see that there is actually a way out.
There's a way out.
When we walk through the dark tunnel, it's a terrible thing, right? Everybody goes, oh, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. Get to the end. There's the light at the end of the tunnel. There is such amazing beauty in the darkness of that tunnel. It tears down our core foundations and we rebuild them. There's a reason why we walk through that dark tunnel. There's a reason why. And if we can just hold on, to there's a purpose here. Everything that I'm going through, there has to be a purpose. And you know what? I found the purpose in my pain.
Yeah.
And I pray that I become a blessing to others. And from what you told me today, thank you. I see.
Thank you so much for being on. Thanks for sending me the copy of your book, Healing Becky.
Yes. Yes, there it is.
It's such a beautiful book. It's within the top 10 books of my 52 years of the most important books I've ever read. As far as healing self, it's probably the top 2 for healing myself. It's the top 2 most important books I've ever read in my entire life. So thank you for writing this. I look forward to your next book. I look forward to having you on for your next book. That one, I want some extra, like, hi Meredyth. Like, I want some extra, like, I want maybe a drawing, so because I can put it on my shelf and be like, I know her, and we could have, like, I could put a picture of you on my wall.
That's okay. You're in Chicago, right? I'm in New York, and what is that? A 2-hour flight?
Yeah, there you go.
I actually know that we'll eventually be doing something together. So,
well, I'm excited for that. Everybody, go now. Go on Amazon. I know that we are not always supporting Amazon, but today we are. Go buy Healing Becky by Rebecca Rowan, and get your copy. Go follow her. She's on TikTok. You're on Instagram too, right?
I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I am on Facebook. I just got on Facebook for the older crowd,
right?
But mostly on TikTok. I have probably my largest following is on TikTok. So I post a lot there and then just send it off everywhere else.
And then do you have a website?
I have a website. It is RebeccaHealingMedium.com. If you are looking for a session with us, any kind of session with me. And I do, if it's local, I do large group sessions, which actually I love doing. I love doing those, fill out a contact form and I get that. I will absolutely email you. I would love to be one of those people someday that has an assistant that answers my emails, but
I know, right?
For now, tis I,
tis I,
tis I, Rebecca.
Tis me.
So you'll get an email from me.
Well, maybe what I just saw when you said that you like doing that, maybe a book club, maybe give some people some opportunity to get this thing ordered and do like a book club or a reading or something of your book. And I mean, as I'm talking to you, I'm like, damn, I need a workbook. Like, I need read chapter, answer question, but maybe that's the next one or the third one. The third one. You're such an excellent writer. Again, thank you so much for being.
I'll tell you something. Thank you for your accolades concerning my writing. You said you have a college degree. I'm a high school dropout.
Stop.
I am completely self-educated. When my children were little, I would take them to school. I would go up to the library and just stay in the library the whole time that they were in school because I had such a thirst for knowledge. And I joke when I say this, but it's not a joke that, I got my GED when I was 30. And it is one of my proudest pieces of paper because I just decided to go take this 9.5-hour test without studying. And I got perfect scores on nearly every subject.
Get out. Well,
So,
I think your proudest piece of paper now needs to be this book because
yes.
it is
And by
unbelievable.
the way, that is me. That's
Is
me.
it? Oh, I figured. I figured
That
it
is
was you.
me. And I love the I actually had one of my children take this photo and make this. And then I
Oh,
sent it
wow.
to the publisher because I said, I want the picture torn into pieces. I said, because I was so broken. I said, but I want you to show it coming together, that it's being repaired,
It's so good.
and I'm not broken. I am becoming.
You are becoming. Thank you, Rebecca, for being on today. Everybody, if you are listening out there, please leave a review at Meredyth with a Y on podcast, either on Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen. Send this to a friend. Send this book to everyone that you like. Anyone that you like. This is a great gift. I think it's like under $20, maybe around 15 or so, 16 or so dollars.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do
Send,
a promo. I can
oh
do a
my,
promo. I have the power to do that. Maybe I'll do that.
well, let me
Maybe we'll
know.
do it in conjunction with one another. We'll do like a promo code.
There you go. I love it. All right,
Listening.
guys, I will see you here next week with another amazing guest. Thank you again so much, Rebecca. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you would like to connect on a more personal level, head over to meredythwillits.com or on Instagram at Meredyth with a Y for behind-the-scene footage and outtakes. Please subscribe and come back each week for more Meredyth with a Y. Thanks again for listening. Cheers.